Positive Lens Podcasts. I'm your host, Scott T. Each week, we will bring you positive law enforcement news stories from across the globe, shared by departments and citizens like yourself. In our Getting to Know Your Local Leo segment, we will speak with a member of the law enforcement community about everyday life and most things non-law enforcement, as we hope to adjust your focus so you see that members of your local law enforcement community are not much different than you and me.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 26. In this week's Getting to Know Your Local Leo episode, you will meet Police Captain Heather Glogolich, a 21-year member of the police force, a domestic violence survivor, mother of 4, and founder of Empowered Policing. Hear how she evolves from the amazing athlete set back by injury to becoming a successful police officer and overcoming domestic violence to finding love again. Plus, find out what household chore she hates, what famous person she'd like to spend the day with, and where she would go tomorrow if money was no object. Please welcome to the podcast the police captain of the New Jersey Institute of Technology and founder of Empowered Policing, Captain Dr. Heather Glogolich.
Morning. Thank you.
I apologize, Captain, if I butchered your name there.
Wasn't too bad.
And I must say, this is truly amazing for the show. It's an honor for me because I don't know if people realize it, but you're actually part of a very special, unique breed in the sense that, some statistics say out there that there are less than 1% of uniformed officers, local officers, that have something you have, and that's your doctoral degree. So congratulations. It's actually Dr. Heather Glogolich. So
Yep.
I really appreciate that. It's like I said, it's a supreme honor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, to go into a few things with you, you've been in policing now for 21 years or so, right? So tell us a little bit about where it all started. Where were you born? Where did you grow up with? Where were you from?
I grew up in Denville, New Jersey, so we call that the hub of Morris County, but it's northern New Jersey area, and very, blue collar town. It was great to grow up in. My mom, my dad's still alive, and I have a younger brother and a younger sister.
Outstanding. And what was life like for you growing up in town?
Very vanilla. Being a police officer, you see not a lot of people were as fortunate as I was. I mean, like I said, my parents were still together. I'm about to be 45, so they've been together 48 years.
That's awesome.
And maybe 47 or 48. I should probably know that. I hope they don't listen. But yeah, my parents, my dad worked a few jobs. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My younger sister's like 9.5 years younger than me. So there's like a little bit of a gap. But for me, it was just that's what the norm was. Because my whole family on both sides were like that, where, the dad worked and the mom stayed home for the most part, if not helped with whatever business the dad had. And, we had dinner at 6 every night, church on Sunday. And that was our life.
But, it was a good life of the times. And it's actually probably a good life for many folks now. We've gotten further away from that with our society. But it definitely, there were some pros to that time period also.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to your parents, congratulations from 47, 48 years. Silver just around the corner, so that's really outstanding. That is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
You better start planning something big, though.
I did one for their 20th. Yeah, I did one for their 20th anniversary. No, it was their 25th anniversary. Surprised the hell out of them. Had recreated their entire wedding reception with the same music that was played and the food, and I had the same color flowers, and I had all of their bridesmaids and groomsmen that were still around, and so it was really cool.
That is awesome. I think that would definitely surprise the hell out of them. Yeah. So the cool thing is that you planned that one. Your younger sibling can plan the next one.
Heck yeah, that's what I think. She was only 15 at the time, so no, maybe 16, or she was young. She was really young. So
when you were younger, did you I know you said a vanilla lifestyle, but what did you get involved in? Were you involved in activities as a kid growing up?
Oh yeah, I played sports my entire life until I got injured, but I played soccer, basketball, softball year round, 3 or 4 teams a season, including winter soccer, summer soccer. Softball was basically spring and summer. They didn't really do fall softball back when I was a kid growing up as much. But yeah, so until I got injured, that was pretty much my life.
So injury, what happened?
I was 13 and I went to go slide tackle a girl and she kicked my knee backwards. And that started, she didn't do it on purpose, but
right.
She just went to kick the ball and really didn't have the ball. So I was too young to get the ACL repaired. They thought that my growth plate was still not closed. So my mom opted for a safe surgery, and we did an arthroscopy. So I still had a partial tear in my ACL, and they fixed some of the cartilage issues. And I was playing soccer again in the fall. I was 14. Then I completely blew it out, had ACL surgery. Then I was playing softball when I was 15. I went to catch a pop fly, my left knee blew out just because I think as girls specifically, they don't really teach us about weight training as much. They definitely didn't back then. There was
Right.
no training as far as, physical aspect of the strength that you need for the sport. It was very much just about the skill for the sport. So, our quads, our hamstrings, not as great. And for anybody who really understands the basic anatomy of a woman, our bodies, our hips are made in order to bear children. So we put a lot of undue necessary pressure on the knees and the inside of the knees specifically. So it's why you see an increase in those injuries in women. And so while I was really physically fit, when I injured my right knee, I didn't know to strengthen my left as well. And blew it out. That was my third surgery. Had another at 20, which is why it's pretty surprising that I actually even went through the police academy.
Well, that was going to say, so, it was traumatic to be able to have all that taken away from you at a young age, and you're involved in so much. But obviously you overcame it, went through the academy, and have been successful for more than 20 years now.
Yeah, I mean, I really credit my mom because I started to get addicted to pain pills at 15 years old.
Okay.
Because I had been injured now while I was 13, 14, and 15, and that's young, right? And back then there was no control. We're talking 1994 when Kurt Cobain died with Nirvana, right? That's how
Yeah.
far back I'm talking. And, there was no control. And so I didn't want to be in pain. So I just started taking them earlier and earlier and earlier. And then it was the summertime, and I was like hiding out in my basement bedroom, watching TV, eating Cheetos, and drinking pink lemonade Snapple. Like I still remember exactly where my head was. And I was so depressed. I thought I had no other options. Like my goal in life was to be a career athlete. Like I never thought about really for real thinking about, I was like, oh, being a cop could be cool, but it was never like my plan. I wanted to be a professional athlete. I wanted to play in the Olympics for soccer, or I wanted to be the first female shortstop for the New York Yankees. I still feel like I might be able to pull that off. I don't move as quick as
That's still an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I'd love to just, throw around with them one time, but we'll see. You know what? You put it in the universe, it happens. But yeah, I really didn't think I was ever going to be able to do much of anything. So I ended up in high school giving up sports for the most part. I still played softball because you have a couple more stationary positions there.
Right.
And I was in the marching band because I couldn't just sit still, and I played the sax for ever. So yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So you got the sports and the music together. That's impressive.
And
I love the Kurt Cobain reference, though. The Kurt Cobain reference is that. I remember where I was when I found that out. I was actually in New York at the time, riding with my cousin in the car, and it came on the radio. And it's like, boom.
I'm pretty sure it was April 13th of 1994.
Yeah, it was completely unexpected.
Yeah.
I mean, I say unexpected. Kurt Cobain did a lot of things that are unexpected, but
Yeah.
that was definitely. I remember that moment.
I still don't think he killed himself. I tend to think that he was murdered, but I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart sometimes.
Yeah, if you look at how things are investigated then versus how they'd be investigated now,
Yeah.
and just
100%.
if you just go to the social media aspect, how many people would be looking into that?
Yeah.
In retrospect, people can't go back and look at the same way 30 plus years later, but we can think about it. But that's a lot of things, right? Technology now makes so many more things out in the open that everyone thinks they're a detective. So.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me that 31 years ago I got injured. That's nice.
Well, we're about the same age, Captain, so it's
Lord
okay.
help me. Yeah.
So you mentioned that being a cop was maybe one of the things you talked about or thought about, but being an athlete was number one. So let's transition to that. How did you end up going into being a police officer? What led to that pursuit?
So while I was in high school, I took a criminology class, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I think my personality is very geared toward this kind of work as far as investigations. I really love clues and putting things together and figure things out. I love catching people being deceptive. I also really love helping people. I'm very type A, high growth needs individual. And I love being a part of things that help people be better in situations. So, I think it's also part of probably that I'm a Taurus and all these things, but I'm nosy. I want to find out all the details, and I want to solve it. So, I went into criminology and I really had never thought of it. Nobody in my family has ever been a cop. I'd never seen a female cop before, ever. So, people question why that's important. And I think it's important to talk about why it's important, because I don't think it's necessarily special that I'm a female police officer. I think it's special that maybe some other female who didn't know it was possible might, because I'm here, right? There's a very big delineation between that, where I think so many people get so focused on, oh my gosh, you're the first this and you're the first that as a female. It's like, yeah, but guys have done it before me. It's just that I'm showing that it's possible also for women, which is, how history has kind of made itself avail. But with that being said, I was in criminology class and I said, you know what, I really love this. And they allowed you to go on a ride along. So I went on a ride along with Denville Police Department. And I was like, well, this is awesome. Like, every day is different. You get to interact with all these people. And back then, everybody loved the cops, right? So, and I still think they do. I think I might be one police officer that doesn't agree with the whole rhetoric that everybody hates the cops. But
I agree.
Thank you. And so I was like, you know what? I don't know if I could do this. So I joined the volunteer fire department and EMS squad to see if it was even in the fabric of who I was to serve in that way. And man, I fell in love with being a first responder. And I still didn't think I could become a cop though, because of my knee issues. 3 moving into 4 knee surgeries. I was on a call one day and as a EMS person, and the cops hadn't gotten there yet, and it ended up being a domestic, but I didn't know that. I knew nothing about that kind of stuff growing up. Like, again, I lived with Leave It to Beaver. Like, it was the key. So I knew nothing about that. Like, legitimately, my parents never fought, they never argued, they never yelled, and no alcohol in my house. Like, it was very vanilla. I really mean that word. And so I'm on this call and I was like checking out the girl, and the guy was like hovering over me. And I was like, sir, can you back up a little bit? And he's like, no. And I was like, And this is me at like 19 years old, 18 years old, being like, I'm trying to find some gumption to talk back to somebody in their own home. And I'm asking her questions and he's answering. I'm like, I need her to answer the questions. And he's like, I'm going to answer all the questions. And so he like got in my face. And so when I stood up, he like lunged at me and I like threw him to the ground. And I don't know how I knew to do that, but I just knew, you're not going to touch me. Like, my dad was so great in teaching me those things. Like, your body is your body and nobody's allowed to touch you without your permission. And then the cops come running in, and the one cop, Scott Torkos, who has been like a mentor to me and still is, like, we're still close. He like pulls me aside at a carnival like a day or two later. He's like, hey, have you ever thought about being a cop? And I was like, yeah, I really want to, but I don't know how to. Like, I don't know where to go, what to do. And I don't know if I can with my knees. He's like, you'll be fine. The academy is not that hard. And so I kind of worked with him. I'm like, okay, I'll take the test. I ended up taking the test on my birthday, and I got the results back. I scored really high and was hired by that November and started the academy in January of 2004. I got hired by the Morris County Sheriff's Office and went through the academy for them, stayed for about a year. Did not love it. It was not part of my purpose. It might be for some, but I wanted to become a cop because I didn't want an office, right? I wanted to be out. I wanted to be interacting. I wanted to be the first responder that was there to try and solve problems. And you don't get that working at a sheriff's office. Even if you're in a specialized unit, you're showing up as a resource to the people that were already the first on scene. And so I was there about a year. I left. I went to Morris Township. I spent 18 years there. And then I resigned as a lieutenant and got hired here at NJIT as a captain.
In which, a couple of things you mentioned there to go back to. Being the first in a family is awesome. Yeah. So congratulations to the whole family, because, we know that law enforcement is a generational thing that happens often. And you've now cut the cloth for anyone to follow in your family. So that's great. The first female aspect of it, there are certainly, like, that's the cool part, because I really do believe that when someone breaks a mold, they create the opportunity for generational changes. And it's not just for those who actually are in the family, but those outside the family, like you said. So you being a visible police officer as a female gives young children the opportunity to say, I can do that. I can be one of them as well. So like I said, and right now, we can talk about it if you'd like, is that what you have at New Jersey is a tremendous amount of females in law enforcement. So you have a tremendous retention rate there, and you have a tremendous amount of females. And I think we've seen now several times you've had all female shifts, not just a single shift, but a full 24-hour shift of all females. And I don't mean just the beat. I mean office, dispatch, everybody.
We've actually full 48 we did.
48 now.
Yeah. So people had done shifts before, a full 12-hour shift, a full 8. And so I turned to my chief. I'm like, I kind of want to like mix it up even more. What about a full 48-hour shift? Like, let the dudes work together, let the girls work together. And so it was just really special. I mean, listen, there were guys around, right? The chief is here. We have some lieutenants that are admin and stuff, but we had dispatchers and our detectives and everybody on the road and the supervisors running the road were all female. And again, a lot of pushback. Like, why does this have to happen? Why is this a big deal? And it's to show that it can, right? Like, that there aren't boundaries, there aren't limits. And it isn't that we were celebrating being female and doing that. We were celebrating the potential of it not mattering, right?
Yes, because, and that's the thing, because I know in today's society, they want to say, if it's race, if it's ethnicity, if it's religion, the individual. But I feel like that idea to drive the individual accomplishment is what creates the segregation that we do want to get away from.
I really love that you brought up the whole thing about, generations and making sure that it's, available for other people. I really look forward to the day where we don't have to describe people as this, as that. It's just, hey, look at that cop over there, or look at that president over there. I don't know. It's such a back and forth for somebody who is so anti-ultra feminism, because I feel as though it isn't. I feel like it's segregating. And I say that because I have had, friends who wanted to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom, and that's what drove them. They loved that. And I was so happy for them to have the opportunity. But then people who call themselves feminists questioning their choices of not being in the workforce and depending on a man. And so that's exactly the opposite of what feminism should be. Like, I was on a podcast about a week and a half ago, and it was with two men who are very anti things like 30 by 30 and recognizing women for being the first. They're like, hey, either you hack it or you don't, and I don't care what you do. And I love that mentality, but I understand the other side of it, like we just talked about. And as we're going through it, the one guy's like, I hate feminism, blah, 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 blah. And then he tells this whole story about one of the original feminists who kind of just had the same perception that I did. And she spoke about it. He's like, see, now that I love. And I said, so see, you are a feminist. You believe in fairness to people regardless of gender. And that's what feminism is. It isn't this ultra feminism about trying to segregate us from men at all. In fact, it's this belief system in ridding ourselves of that title and being recognized for it, or having different standards because of it. And actually, as somebody who is a feminist, I sit here in New Jersey and I'll be on a panel and a commission to fight for that. I think the state of New Jersey, and not the police side, but like the Attorney General's office, and there's that coalition for civil rights, and I can't think of the acronym right now. There's too many acronyms in my life. And the Department of Corrections are pushing to lower standards for females to get in. And I'm super anti that, because you either do the job or you don't do the job. You show up for the job that you want, not that the job that you have. And so there's this back and forth rhetoric. And to me, I said, listen, if you're going to lower standards to allow people to come in, it has to be for everybody. I still don't agree with it. But if you're going to create a program, which they have, a pilot program now, where they lowered the standards to enter into the police academy, but the standards to graduate are higher. So while I had to run a mile and a half in 15:50, now to get into the academy, but also to graduate, now they've made it that I think it's a mile and a half in 19 something.
That's a big difference, but
yeah. Just to get into the academy. And then they're putting the onus on the academy for 20 or 22 weeks, how long they're in, to help train people to be better, and to get down to, I think it's a 14-minute mile and a half. I love that idea, right? Because like when you talk about the military, like that's what boot camp is. It gets you in shape to where you're supposed to be. And do they have an expectation of you showing up in a certain shape? Yes, but so, I get questioned a lot on that whole, how can you stand on this side but also stand on that side? And I'm like, well, first of all, it's the United States of America, and I'm allowed to have an opinion, and I don't have to be totally one way and totally another way, right? Like, I might vote Republican or Democrat, but not agree with everything the Republican or Democratic president says. Like,
correct.
That's my
We're not
right,
brainwashed.
Right? I'm not brainwashed. Yeah, like, listen, maybe I'm for certain things with like the Republican status, but am I for them removing the rights under Roe versus Wade and telling me how to use my body? Absolutely not.
Right.
And I'll talk about that with anybody. I don't care. Like, I'm not trying to offend people with my opinion. I feel like I should be able to still have it. And why shouldn't I, right? Again, United States of America.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you mentioned the standard as well, because that was when I was younger and I knew the sergeant, I would talk to you about it, and she was a female sergeant. At the time, she was one of the only female sergeants in the corrections department when I was in Florida. And we talked about standards, and she said, Scott, I'm trying to raise the standards for women to get in, because I don't like the idea that they have to do less push-ups and less sit-ups and run slower. And I've always agreed with that. And it wasn't because it was anti someone getting in, but it was also the criminal doesn't turn around and say, oh, well, Heather's a female, so I'm going to run slower today. Oh,
Right.
she's a female, I'm going to be less aggressive towards her. In fact, they might be more aggressive towards you because you're
Yeah.
a female. So
100%.
yeah, so I really appreciate that position that you're taking, because you can be on both sides of the feminist conversation without being negative towards either one.
Agreed. Like,
So
and I think that's the problem with society today. Everybody believes you have to be all in on one to belong, and that's not the case. Like, I love the human for the human and their actions, not necessarily their beliefs, right? So now listen, if you're someone who believes that pedophilia is okay, we're gonna have an issue, right? Like, I also have a moral compass and core values that I don't delineate from. But I'll still respect you as a person. Like, I'll still treat you with respect. That's what I mean. Not that I necessarily respect your decisions, but as a human, I will treat you with respect, regardless of what you've done or have not done. But I will still do my job.
yeah, and I had a recent conversation I had with somebody about this. The same thing is when you're interrogating someone who is a pedophile, you need to almost get them. You have to build trust in them. They have to trust you. It's building a fake friendship for them so that they're willing to speak to you, because those individuals have a different way of thinking, right? So that detective mindset and the way you approach them, you'll treat them with respect. You won't respect their actions, obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
But
listen, this all comes down to growth. And this was something that I learned probably about halfway through my career, because I didn't want to go in the detective bureau because I didn't want to have to deal with sex offenders. I knew that my personal belief system would not allow me to be the most professional person. And that if you hurt a child, the human instinct in me is to want to hurt you and give you retribution for that. And I knew that was a limitation of mine, and so I never went into the detective bureau before because of it. But then I learned later on something, and I still don't. Like, I went in the detective bureau as a sergeant because I didn't have to worry about that. I'm now in charge of the detective bureau as a captain. That's different. That's a lot of administrative oversight kind of things. For me, I had someone speak something to me that really clicked, right? That made me see them as a human. They stood in front of the class and they said, so many people here want to be able to cure people who are pedophiles. They want to cure them, but there is no cure. And the way we say it is, I'm a heterosexual female. Somebody turns to me the next day and says, listen, it's against the law to like someone that's opposite gender of you and be attracted to them. You now can only be attracted to women. Would you be able to do that? Would you be able to flip that switch? And we can't, right? We cannot control some of that nature versus nurture stuff. And so they're like, that's the exact same way with people that are attracted to younger children. They can't turn it off. That's something within them, right? And once I realized that innately is something, I stopped blaming them for how they were feeling and started just holding them accountable for their actions that were illegal, right? And that's that growth mindset that we need to really instill in our police officers this day. That, I always said, in my head, I think somebody who stole food for their children is not as bad of a criminal as somebody who robs a purse from a little old lady walking across the street, right? It's all about the mitigating circumstances that come into it. And when we talk about, how you even the name of your podcast, your positive lens and that spin on it, at the foundation of that, it very much is that positivity and gratitude and learning the why behind it. Often when we deal with people who commit crimes, especially ones that have victims involved, which are most of them, it's because of something that happened or didn't happen to them growing up. And when you start to really talk about the why, you understand the do. And that's really how I try to teach as well. I try to give my guys and my girls the why so they understand the do. And here's a good example of it. We have this kid, and he's not necessarily a kid, but he's in his 20s. But predominantly when we deal with homeless people, especially around this area, they're older in life, not super old, but maybe we're dealing with veterans, or we're dealing with people with drug addictions or mental health issues, and that takes time to develop. It's not always a younger person that I'm seeing that's homeless. And we have this younger person who is like the nicest person in the world, and he comes on our campus because it's the only place he feels safe to sleep, and he keeps trespassing. So he keeps getting arrested for it because we have to hold him accountable for that, right? Now it's come to the fact, now every time he's getting arrested, he has like this number associated with him when he goes in the system to get printed. And the higher it gets, the more inclined they are to put his charges on a warrant and put him in jail. Now, do I feel like he should be incarcerated with people who commit homicide and robbery and all that? I don't at all. He's not a violent person. He's just looking to be safe. So he was here 2 days ago, maybe, 2 days ago, and he's in there. And I just walked in. I was like, listen, can I just fundamentally ask you a couple questions to try and help you. And we had a really good conversation. I'm like, do you understand that every time you're arrested for this, like, it's going to be harder and harder for you to get out of jail. It's going to be harder and harder for you to get that placement into a residential facility. It's going to be harder for you to accomplish some of the goals that you may have set. Like, how can I help you? What do you need? Like, do you need food? Do you need money? Do you need a job? Do you need a place to shower? Do you need all of these things? Like, and he's like, well, I had my documents stolen. I go, all right, well then let's write you a report so we can take you over to Social Security and we can take you over to DMV and have them duplicated for you so you can apply for the things that you need, right? And I think that's the level of policing that has nothing to do with whether I'm a female or a male. It has to do with that growth mindset of life experience and empathy, and really that servant leadership that should be behind everything we do as law enforcement officers.
No, I think that's an excellent story because too often, and even what you said about the transition to mindset about the handling of a pedophile, but too often we are preconditioned to a certain way of thinking, and when we see someone, whether they're homeless or the act they commit, we automatically go to one judgment.
Yeah.
And you took the time to talk to this person as an individual and not as an enforcer of the law to say, yes, you're educating them on it and you know what your duty is in your role, but by educating them on the process, it's also letting them see this is why we're trying to help you. This is what I can do for you. And that's not policing as a criminal aspect. That's policing as a service, right? And
Yep.
And I think that's so important. And for this individual, you're showing them this is what we do. We provide service. We do a lot more service than we do criminal apprehension, but the service doesn't make the news usually. The criminal apprehension, and it's when the criminal apprehension makes it, it's sometimes the negative content that shows up, not necessarily the actual positive things.
Yeah, and I think if people started realizing that with criminal apprehension there is a service aspect as well, then you would see that that's a part of everything.
It is. It's 100%. But you mentioned the challenges individuals were going through. What about yourself? You mentioned the pain pills when you were younger. But is there a challenge that you've struggled with throughout your career? Not throughout your whole career, but a challenge that you had during your career that you experienced that you think of someone heard that they say, wow, so a police captain went through this and is still able to be successful every day. I'm possibly going through that right now. I know I have now the ability to overcome it. And Captain Heather's just like me.
Yeah, I mean, I blew my knee out in the police academy and finished anyway. I needed a knee replacement at 23 years old, and I didn't end up getting it till I was 30. But I still, I went to the academy when I was 23. I started. When I graduated, I was 24. I had met my first husband in the academy, and a couple of years into our marriage, it turned into a very volatile situation of domestic violence to where it ended with him, beating me for about 4 hours and holding a loaded gun in my head. And most people would look at me, especially now, and I've always kind of had the same personality in regards to being a strong female and really not, I'm definitely more self-aware of how much I should love myself and the respect I should have for myself now. But back when I was in my early 20s, it was very much about what other people would think of me. So, as far as domestic violence victims goes, nobody understands why they get into a relationship like that, and nobody will ever understand why they don't leave, and it's got to be on their own time. And there were some things that happened prior to that incident. I should have left earlier, and I didn't. So I was really embarrassed by all of it. And at that point, I had a 20-month-old and an 8-month-old with him. So there was finance issues, there was control issues, there was concern about my job and whether or not it would be secure because I didn't report it before, whether or not they'd believe me. And so, I stepped out of that situation, and for the next 14 years, dealt with having a co-parent with him. I did get him arrested. He did serve some time. It wasn't a lot. The criminal justice system is very much just that. It's a justice system for criminals, which is why I take my job so seriously, because I feel as the people who respond first, we're the ones that have the most impact on positivity with victims. And a lot of that comes from the domestic violence incident that I was in. But he was no longer allowed to be a cop anymore, but he's still allowed to see my older 2 kids. I certainly went through all of that and wondered whether or not I could trust a man again to be in a relationship. And I'm lucky to have found my current husband, who was very young when he met me, and I was recently divorced with 2 little kids. And he was just like, within a year, he's like, I want to marry you and spend the rest of my life with you. And it's like, that took a lot of growth on my part too, to not hold someone else accountable for someone else's actions. Right?
Especially because you probably had a natural defense mechanism built up already.
Yeah. And listen, mental health being what it is, especially with cops, we aren't allowed to be as open and honest regarding how we feel, because we carry a gun, right? And that comes with a certain amount of responsibility and this level of balance we're supposed to have with our mental health. We're not supposed to have the bad thoughts. We're not supposed to be, I mean, we're all pretty negative about a lot of this stuff because we compartmentalize everything we see. We have to.
You have to.
Yeah, but I was like, you know what? I think I should see a therapist to like kind of get through this. So the first person I walked into was this man who was like, well, let's talk about what happened in your life growing up that allowed you to be in this situation. I was like, listen, you don't know, my family's great. See ya. Right. And I never went back. And until I started to see that I was having some post-traumatic stress. And listen, I'm very open and honest when I say that I do not think that post-traumatic stress is a disorder at all. I think it is an on-the-job injury or a life injury that needs to be rehabbed. Just like my knees were, just like my hip was, just like my neck has been. You know, and I don't think we treat it as that, and we should. And if we did, I think we'd have a lot more people that would step into an office with somebody. But I also don't believe that traditional therapy is what everybody needs for therapy. I did, and for a time. And I also went through, I found a new therapist. I was on a call for a murder-suicide, and we're standing over this girl's body. And my friend, who's now a chief of police, like, is just standing next to me. And it was, the town's intertwined. So the murder happened in my neighboring town, and he committed suicide across the street in my town. Okay. And I was on scene for it, like was in foot pursuit of him. And I'm just kind of standing there, and the rain is coming down on this poor girl whose body is just laying there. And we're trying to cover things up, but can't because we have to process the scene. And we weren't really sure what was going on because of the way that she was positioned. It was weird. And so as Mike is standing there, he goes, he said, are we allowed to curse on this? Because I'm as quoting, or should I be careful?
You can.
He throws out an F-bomb, right? And I was like, dude, what's wrong? And he's like, that's somebody's daughter. I'm like, bro, that could have been me. And I don't know where that came from, because we're talking, man, 6, 7, 8 years later that comment came out of my mouth. And I was like, I think it's time for me to go back to therapy. And I found Dr. Christopher Barker, who's local. And, you know, I actually got introduced to him because my kids were, you know, dealing with going through some childhood required therapy because of some things with their dad, because that's when my kids kind of found out about what their dad did. And man, Dr. Barker is unique and a beautiful human, and he saw me for me, and he didn't hold my thoughts against me, which was really nice, because if I was in there and I'm like, I really just wish my ex-husband was dead, like that's an honest thought because of everything I'm going through, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to act upon that, right? And
right.
He knew the difference. Or if I was like, man, I've been really sad lately, like I can't get past these thoughts and I'm having nightmares, he wasn't automatically like, oh, we got to make sure she doesn't have her gun. Like he took every individual as a person. And then he introduced me to EMDR, which was absolutely phenomenal. I'm not going to get too into it because it's very intricate, but basically what it does is it gives you a stimulus as you talk through very minute moments of a traumatic incident, like the very fine details. And it basically allows your brain to be reprogrammed to not go back and dwell on those things. Man, once I started that, my nightmares diminished. It's been really a beautiful thing. Like I don't even see him anymore, but we still talk. We go out to lunch every once in a while. Like I just love him on such a level. But you know, my new therapy is jujitsu. I love it. Like controlled violence is great for me. Like my love language is physical touch. And being able to feel my strength. And listen, part of what happened with my ex-husband was he strangled me twice until I was unconscious. So for me, I think in my head, I felt so useless and helpless and weak in those moments with him, that being in a controlled environment with jiu-jitsu, where I have the ability to allow men and women to put me in a situation where I am being choked for the sport and for training for work, but I can tap and tell them when to stop. It has also reprogrammed my physical trauma reaction to the things that I went through. So, you know, I have been through a lot. Like I sued my agency to get promoted because they held my use of sick time for having 2 babies against me. And that in and of itself makes you feel less than. You wonder whether or not everybody judges you for having this position just because you sued, or, you know, just because you're a woman. And I mean, that growth of not caring what other people think and refusing to play small so other people can feel big, and holding other people accountable for their actions and not letting that be a burden you carry is a lot of the stuff that I've worked through in my 21 years as a cop, really as far as my lifetime is concerned. Because as vanilla as my relationship was with my parents, it also wasn't like the healthiest relationship with my mother because of how she grew up, right? She was very tough on me. It was very much like, you start anything you finish. There wasn't a lot of affection. I knew she loved me, but we didn't say I love you. And she was much different with the way she parented my brother and my sister. My brother almost died when he was born. So automatically there was just like this difference. And, we have this conversation all the time, and me and my mom now. And I think sometimes she really starts to feel guilty. And I try to tell her, I'm like, look who I am today. Like, look at my work ethic. Look at, the way that I talk to people. Look at how I raise my children. And I've been able to take everything good that you've given me, even through the discipline you showed me. And I've been able to adopt self-discipline and create my own motivation to be the person and live the life that I had. So to just kind of come full circle on the question that you've asked, I've been through a lot, right? I have struggled with illnesses. I've struggled with injuries. I have struggled with domestic violence. I've gone through a divorce. I've been poor. I've had to file bankruptcy. I have had to sue to get where I've had to work really hard to show that my abilities and my reputation are something that are worthy of the respect that I give other people automatically. And here I am, the captain of an incredible police department, building an incredible team that you mentioned as far as recruitment and retention. Like, we have 30% female working at this agency, and I was one of 2 in September in when I got hired. So we now have 12, and people will be like, "Oh, why are you just recruiting women?" I'm not. We've hired 12 men as well. So like, it's this aspect of being able to create an environment and a culture where people feel loved, and that's the foundation. And not many people use that word in policing, but shouldn't that be at the foundation of everything that we do? Love
Yes.
for humankind, love for ourselves, love for our team, love for their families as well, and understanding that because we chose to be cops, our families didn't. They sacrifice everything that we do because of our choices and where we're at. So I lead with love and inclusion, but at the same time, I will hold people accountable for who they are and their actions and their non-actions too. So when you create the environment where people feel that they can excel and be inspired, and that they can push to be more without the judgment of who they are, and you allow them to bring their self-identity into a profession that has consistently told us to all be the same, I think that's the secret sauce right there.
Heather, you've included so many great things in that response, honestly. They're
Thanks.
really, the love language is the John Kelly statement, but no, you
I
included
love
so many
John
great
Kelly.
things there. Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
The surviving of domestic violence, I want to give you 100% credit for. I want to go to that because, like you said, people don't understand why people stay in those relationships. And I have individuals that even say to me, why do they stay there? I'm like, well, you've never been there. And the way people feel and going through those situations, they don't feel there's a way out, right? There's just so much that goes with it. And that conversation can be an hours-long discussion, of course.
Yeah.
But the fact that you survived that and then did that as a mom, a single parent, for the time period before you got remarried, and navigating that whole process of life, I have to commend you for that, because not a single one of those accomplishments, I'm going to call them, individually was easy to go through. But yet you named off about 7 or 8 in there that you did in that same journey, and still kept being who you are, and it has you to who you are today. And like you said, an evolving person, and we're always evolving. So I have to commend you for that. And we may have to set up a separate episode to dissect each one of those individual points.
I'm in.
But I really appreciate you sharing that. The authenticity, I think, is important. And I think it's very important for individuals who see a police officer and they say, oh, we're in a position of authority. Yes. Well, they're perfect. No. They're humans. Yes. They have flaws. Yes. But that's what makes them able to be relatable too. That's why when talking to a person who's homeless, or talking to a victim of a domestic violence, it's nice. It's not always the female who's the victim. Sometimes it's the male. We know that. But having those conversations, and now you're seeing more in policing that you can use your personal stories in those conversations and create that relatability aspect. And it's not because you want them to say, oh, well, everything's the exact same, but it's just to break down that barrier. Let them feel comfort and know that, yes, I'm an officer of the law, but I'm also able here to help you. And I've lived what you're living. I'm not just telling you I understand how you feel. I know how you feel. I've
Yeah.
sat in that seat.
Yeah.
And that recovery, I think, starts the moment they first talk to the first responder, right? The quicker you can start that recovery process, I want to say easy, because easy is not necessarily good for anything of those things, but it starts an easier recovery process, because now they're able to get that mind to switch from victim to survivor.
Yeah.
And the captain's here to help me do that, or whomever the individual is that responding. So I appreciate you sharing a lot of that. I know you have some stuff today too, so I want to keep time tight for us on that. So to go to a few fun things, you mentioned, the family makes a lot of sacrifices for us. They do. Even though I'm not in law enforcement, I know I have a tendency to work long hours, and family without family that wouldn't be possible probably. So when family has you doing stuff, you mentioned jujitsu is your free time. What do you hate doing when you're home and the family's like, "Hey, we have to get stuff done around the house. You haven't been here because you're working 12-hour shifts, whatever it might be." What is the thing you hate to do at home? If it's a
Laundry.
chore, if it's a
I
laundry,
hate laundry.
is
I
it is
hate
it the
picking up
laundry?
dog poop.
You don't delegate the dog poop to the kids?
We have three dogs. I joke. I have four kids, three dogs, uh, two husbands I've had, and I joke that a partridge in a pear tree. But I don't mind washing and drying the laundry. I hate folding it and putting it away. Like I legitimately will just. I would rather throw it in a pile and iron it. I hate it. I really, really detest it. My number three does laundry for me. She is so good. She's 10. I actually have really great kids. I have an 18-year-old, my daughter, 17, and her name is Amber, and a 17-year-old son who's Hunter. And then I have a 10-year-old daughter, Addison, and a 9-year-old daughter, Hadley. So, my 10-year-old has been this empathetic, beautiful soul since the moment she was born. And, I was working night shift until about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So when I had to when I was tired and, coming home at 3:30 in the morning and waking up to take them to work because my husband works days, it would, she'd be like, "Mommy's tired." So she'd make me breakfast in bed, or
Oh, wow.
I'd wake up. She's like, "I did 3 loads of laundry." I'm like, "You're 6." Well, she folds better than I do. So why not? But that's probably, I hate doing laundry and I hate dog poop. I wish it just disintegrated in the rain. That's what I wish.
Why doesn't it? I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, I delegate that to my daughters. I'm like, you got dog poop duty. That's your
good
weekend
for
duty.
you.
Yeah, that's the one thing I delegate to them. Laundry. I tell people I love doing the laundry. That's no problem. I hate folding the laundry.
Yeah.
Doing is easy, right? Throw it in there, put the
Mhm.
the solution in,
Yeah.
detergent, hit play or start whatever button it says on there, and yeah, I'm with you on that one 100% when it comes to laundry. All right, so you have the opportunity to spend the time anyone you want. That's not yours, not your family, not your spouse. Who do you spend the day with?
Oh, this is, can I, there's a couple people on this list. So it's really hard for me because there's different parts of who I am that I would love to have the opportunity to grow. Michael Jordan has been somebody that I've loved since I was a kid. I mean, I used to be able to quote the entire opening lineup walk in for the Chicago Bulls team back from 90, Michael Jordan, 6'6" from the University of North Carolina. I could do it all. So I think I would love to spend some time with him. Who I also would love to spend time with, and this is a fictional character, but it's still the same person. I love the show Ted Lasso. I love the show. So I think the cast of Ted Lasso, but almost no, because I wouldn't want them to let me down because I would love the cast so much. But I just think that that's I don't know if you've seen the show.
No,
Um,
I've only heard of it. I've never
oh,
watched it.
Listen, I said no to watching it for a really long time because I was like, I love soccer, but obviously it's football over there. So if I go back and forth, you'll understand I'm talking about soccer. I was like, why are they going to make a show about an American football coach going over to teach soccer in Europe? I was like, this looks stupid. It's probably another just bit, right? And so then this person that I look up to very, very much, his name is Scott Anderley. He's a chief in Watchung, and I trained jujitsu with him. He's really one of the reasons I got into it. He does so much for the law enforcement community. He's a phenomenal leader that I look up to as a mentor. And he's like, this is one of the best shows I've ever seen on leadership. He's like, it's why I named my son Roy after Roy Kent. And I was like, okay, well, I don't watch it maybe. Well, I just had my neck fused in October, and he said, all of a sudden I get a notification that he sent me a $25 Apple gift card. And he's like, now you don't have a reason not to. You have time, watch it. And I binged all 3 seasons. So much so I was Ted Lasso for Halloween last year. So I had surgery October 14th. I binged it before October 31st and ordered my stuff. It's just one of the most phenomenal shows on team cohesion and individualized leadership and servant leadership and a growth mindset and, being curious and not judgmental. And I just really love it. And I just would ask anybody to take the time to watch it a little bit so that's what I say. Real life in person would be Michael Jordan, but if I had my way, I would spend the day with the cast of Ted Lasso.
Now, I'm struggling with your Jordan answer because I have the ultimate respect for Jordan as what he's done and accomplished, but I'm a New York Knicks fan. So every time...
I'm sorry to hear a little Patrick Ewing and John Sparks. I'm sorry.
I know. It's like, oh man. But, anyone, even if they're not a fan of sports, I think if they look at what Michael Jordan did from his days in North Carolina, if you go back to high school when he didn't make the squad, and what he did to become, in my view, the greatest basketball player of all time, regardless of what other records come out. Yeah, absolutely
right.
Is.
It is not LeBron James. I will argue that with anybody all day long. If you're saying that, you didn't grow up in the Michael Jordan era. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I do. And I love Magic Johnson. It was the time that I gave Magic Johnson the kudos over MJ. But then when MJ comes out of retirement and wins 3 more, I kind of changed my thoughts on it. And the reason was because Magic Johnson, as the point guard, he was the all-around player. He got everybody better. But that was, you talked about evolution for yourself. Michael Jordan evolved. They started becoming the winning championship Bulls the more he started to trust his teammates.
Absolutely.
And then he also, you look at that second, I know we're going off of sports for a moment, but he went to those 3 championships with Dennis Rodman. Rodman was the outcast. We always knew he had the talent. But Jordan had Rodman on the team. Phil Jackson did a phenomenal job managing Rodman, or however you manage Rodman. And Pippen was there the first time.
Yeah.
It's
finding him to show up for the games. That was it.
Yeah, right. And I don't know. That says a lot of things probably about Rodman, that he was able to accomplish all he did while he did all the things he did outside the court too. I mean, that's pretty impressive. He's had a pretty interesting post basketball career too now, when he gets involved with negotiations with North Korea and different things. His daughter's a phenomenal soccer player. So
you're like speaking my love language right now about the Bulls. I don't think you understand. Like I don't even watch professional basketball anymore because I just, when we grew up in that time, there was a superstar on every single team, whether you had like John Paxson or David Robinson, or you had, it was just, what a time to be alive and watch basketball, right? But man, I love that Bulls team. Even like Bill Cartwright and his weird
shot. Yeah. Oh, remember, he came from the Knicks though. That was part of the Charles Oakley, Bill Cartwright trade.
Yeah. I know. And I really do. I mean, even now I love watching Steve Kerr coach. Like it's just, I'll tune in for things like that because I just have this affinity towards that era of that player with their mindset. And I mean, talk about brilliance. But I really like Pat Riley as a coach. Like I was always very impressed with him. And he was always this person who was never a shit talker about he gave respect and he coached with respect against other teams, right? He was like, listen, we're going up against the Bulls. Like we need to come up with a strategy. It's not about our game right now. It's about theirs. I really respect his coaching style for that as well. See?
And he's done that as executive with the Miami Heat. He's done that.
Yeah.
So I know you have only about 5 or 10 minutes left, or maybe even a couple. So we'll go through a few last questions. And I said, I think we'll have to set up a separate time to go over a few more pieces.
Okay.
But so retire tomorrow. Where do you go? Where do you spend time?
Retire tomorrow.
No, money's no object. Go wherever you want.
Money's no object.
Yes.
Like to live or to just vacation?
Vacation.
Ireland.
And then who do you bring with you? Do you go alone or do you bring your spouse and children? So
I love traveling alone. I think it's the greatest gift I have ever given myself is being able to travel alone. It really refocuses me, and there is nothing more empowering than sitting down at a bar, ordering a beautiful steak dinner, having a glass of wine, and not having to cut someone else's meat or engage in conversation. Like it's literally about you, and most people shy away from doing that. I love going by myself. I love
how you take cut people's meat. That always goes to children. Always preparing this.
Yep.
John Kelly and I talked about this very briefly. It wasn't part of a conversation we had, but it's off the podcast conversation. It's not the exact same, but it's also enjoying the silence when you're with somebody. If you can sit with somebody and still be in silence, you can still be building that relationship without talking. In the power of silence.
The right one.
Yep. But the love language thing is, like I said, that's awesome. So
to
go into this, in the last few questions there, I want to go over a few things. Empowered policing. Mm-hmm. You created Empowered Policing. Can you tell us about that? And for individuals who are interested in connecting with you, how they contact you?
So I have my own website, empoweredpolicing.com, and I started it really because I wanted to, I was starting to teach courses throughout the country, and so I needed an LLC. And when I started to put it together, the training company I worked for was starting to transition. And so I was like, I should do this on my own. So I got my certification in career coaching for law enforcement. I have these classes developed. I really believe in mentorship being the future of what law enforcement should be. And I didn't have one growing up. So, that's really what it was. Just trying to find a way to be able to educate people and give them the information I wish that I had had, right? I have a full career of failures because of not having a mentor. And if I can help somebody else navigate their own failures and help them fail forward instead of just failing backwards, I thought that was really important. So that's why I called it empowered policing, because you can have anybody show you the way, but you really have to have that self-empowerment and that self-discipline to step forward into your own greatness. And that's really the foundation of what empowered policing is.
And the reality is, though, individuals who are interested in it do not necessarily have to be in law enforcement. That's the name, but anyone who wants to be empowered and have the mentor to help them go forward, because you don't just do initial conversations, you help them also with career counseling and coaching, helping them, you develop them a full person, full 360, really.
Yeah, it's not even that, like, it's really just your mindset. I will push you past your comfort zone in regards of self-reflection, and I will try to give you the tools, but you have to be open to it. If you're someone who's like, I'm not getting this done, I'm going to ask the why. Well, because of this. I go, well, how long did you spend scrolling on Instagram? And what are you doing to prioritize the things that are important to you? And why are you giving up on yourself so easily? Why is it so easy for you to take care of your children, but it's not easy to take care of yourself? Because it's like the airplane thing with the oxygen. I like to say, if your cup is empty, you can't fill up anybody else's cup. So you constantly have to find ways to fill that cup up.
Yeah, you have to be able to fill up your own cup before you can fill somebody else's.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah.
So, you built great bridges with the community already. I'm just using the homeless individual as an example. You're connecting with him. That's a member of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement across the country is doing a lot of things to help connect with community. There's some debate on, too, the right ways and wrong ways to do it. For you, personally, what do you think is the best way for the members of law enforcement and policing to build bridges and stronger bridges with community members?
Authenticity in every interaction, right? So we talk about community policing. We don't really use that term here. It's community engagement. We don't want to police our community because of the negative connotation with the word, even though, words are words. It's what you put behind it, right? But for me, I think that authenticity and the desire to really connect with people, to build relationships, is the foundation of everything. I will never, I force my people to have citizen contacts, just walk up to somebody and say hello and, oh, what are you studying, or what are you doing on campus? But for me, community engagement is in every single aspect of what we do. Motor vehicle stops, arrests, literally anything. It can be about, hey, listen, maybe you didn't realize that your inspection sticker was overdue. Let me explain that to you. Or, just kind of being like, listen, yes, I need to place you under arrest right now because it's my job, but how can I help this not happen again? Right? So, do I believe things like coffee with a cop and all of that is important? I do, but I think it has to be done the right way. You set up coffee with a cop and the cops show up to a coffee place and they're just talking with each other and they're not trying to build relationships with people that walk in. What are you really accomplishing? You're not, right? So, it has to be authenticity. As it comes from a place of really wanting to have that service aspect of what we're doing, that servant leadership. That's what I think is important.
I think you're spot on. The authenticity is key, and it has to feel natural. It can't feel forced. And I think you're in a position with the New Jersey Institute of Technology that you're working with individuals who are heavily influenced by what's been going on around them, especially the social media aspect of it. And for them to have those relationships cultivated with the officers around the campus, I think can have a profound impact, because you're hitting them at an age where they're still trying to find out sometimes who they are.
I agree.
So if you had to do it all again, though, I know we talked about first responder, EMS, EMT, fireman. Would you still be the police officer today?
Oh my God, I love my job. Absolutely.
Other than a professional athlete.
Oh gosh, that's like a dream. I'd want to be a rock star. I think that'd be pretty cool. I can't sing. I wish I could sing. I mean, I can sing, but I can sing like shower sing, right? I'm not maybe karaoke. I rap a mean salt and pepper, but I'd love to learn to play the guitar.
Now you're aging us. People don't know salt and pepper. They think it goes on a table. They don't realize
it. Man. It's all full circle. I'm gonna be backup dancer for Pitbull. That would be super exciting for me. But I love Pitbull. But that would be somebody I would want to spend a day with. I take it all back.
Okay.
Pitbull's up there. I don't take it all back, but I'm out of it.
Have you gone to a concert?
I've been to 13 Pitbull concerts and
13?
5 in front row. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I know. I'm obsessed. Yeah.
I will say I like Pitbull as well, and he puts on a show. And it reminds me of the old school idea that it wasn't just about show up and listen to my music. It's show up and see the show. If he
Yeah.
cuts off in the middle of a song and he ad-libs and changes things, it's a show. I'm there for entertainment value and appreciation. I'm not there to listen to the CD. Yeah, he's a performer. He really is.
He's a good man, too. A lot of good messages. Very positive.
He does a lot. And it's that, again, we go back to people's perception or, oh, he's a rapper. He's a Cuban rapper. He's Cuban American. Yeah, you know what? He loves America, and he does a lot of things for the community and the people that no one knows about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really awesome. All right, so we'll wrap this up for you. If you have a safety tip to individuals who are walking about the community today, what would that be for them to stay safe?
Stay off your phone and keep your eyes open, and that's it. And the way you carry yourself is going to have a profound impact on the way people react to you. So don't act like a victim, and if you are a victim, that's fine, but don't remain one. Become a survivor. But stay off your phone. I see so many people become victims of crime because they're so focused on this, whether they're hit by a car or robbed or taken and assaulted. I think that's such a big thing, a big key. That's what I teach my kids. So
Excellent. Well, Catherine, I appreciate all the time you've given today. I know you went a little bit over on some availability and joining the Your Positive on podcast. This segment, we call Getting to Know Your Local Leo. Here we certainly get to know more about you. If you give us the pleasure, I'd love to set up a separate time to speak further and dive into some of those other key areas you went into. I noticed some really great things you mentioned there. You're involved with the president of New Jersey Women in Law Enforcement, which I think is an outstanding setup and arrangement they have there. For individuals interested in empowered policing, we will go ahead and include that link in the show notes. So individuals, again, it's not just about policing, it's about the individual and being empowered. So I appreciate you doing that and taking the time to join the show with us today. And as I mentioned in the beginning, it is an absolute honor having you on here because, again, you're less than, like I say, by accounts, less than 1% of the uniformed law enforcement population that has a doctorate. So I appreciate it. So again, Dr. Heather Glogolich.
there you
Do
go.
my best to pronounce it.
Thanks, Scott.
So it's a pleasure. And like I said, we'll look forward to speaking to you again further and appreciate your time today.
Sounds great.
All right. Have a great day now.
You too.
Thank you.
If you liked this episode, follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Provide us your feedback in the comments and leave us a rating or review. We truly appreciate your opinion. And then follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook to get all the latest updates. Remember, you can always find places that will share negative law enforcement news stories. But here, at Your Positive Lens, you will only find your positive law enforcement news stories. Once again, I'm your host, Scott T. Thanks for listening, and we'll capture you on the next Your